public were soon let in to the secret. Monsieur de Nesselrode had already written to the prefect of police directing him to liberate all persons who were imprisoned for attachment to their legitimate sovereign. Soon after, the walls of Paris were placarded with the declaration of the Emperor Alexander made in his name and those of his allies, setting forth that they would not treat for the interests of France with the Emperor Napoleon or any member of his family. Chapter 2. Further accounts received from Paris from the 1st to the 2nd of April. The Allies were, above all things, anxious to save the lives of their troops. Within the last 2 months, 15 or 20,000 had been killed by the French peasantry. It was necessary to calm this spirit of animosity. The restoration of the Bourbons was desired, but it was not wished that the revolution should appear to have been brought about by the force of arms. It was necessary to set to work gently to conciliate public opinion, to speak through the medium of French voices, and to appear merely to accede to the national wish. Such was the plan of the Allies. Their language assumed the tone of generosity, and the partisans of the Bourbons affected the rest. This excited the revival of their principles. With all the ardor of zeal long repressed, they were seen running to and fro amidst the enemy's baggage and bivouacs on the quays, bridges, and boulevards. They addressed everybody, and all who listened to them were regarded as favoring their designs. They found useful auxiliaries among that class of placemen who were only anxious to keep themselves in office, and they obtained active proselytes among those whose ambition had not been gratified by the attainment of the honors and favors which they had spent 15 years in soliciting. All who were dissatisfied with their lot rejoiced at the prospect of a change of fortune. The families who had lost their property in the revolution calculated on what a counter-revolution might restore to them. The old were pleased with the revival of names and privileges with which all the youthful recollections were connected. Female imagination was excited by the romantic interest attached to some melancholy instances of adverse fortune. The trading population, alarmed at the clashing of foreign savors, eagerly disavowed the sovereign whom but yesterday they had adored. In short, jealous passions, the resentment of disappointed ambition, wounded vanity, crimes justly punished, base ingratitude, and even fear, all concurred to favor the enemies of Napoleon. The thought of being regarded as a conquered nation was insupportable to the Parisians. They wished at all events to escape that degradation, and they eagerly embraced the more tolerable ideas of a restoration. Party leaders adroitly availed themselves of this feeling of national pride. The wishes of the Allies were represented as merely supporting ours, and the oppression which 600,000 foreign bayonets exercised over our unhappy country now began to be styled the deliverance of France. But it was necessary to have an organ of public opinion, and it was not difficult to find one. The Senate, in all difficult circumstances, possessed the right of supplying the absence of popular power. Napoleon's government had resorted to its aid in every great crisis. In the present case, therefore, recourse was likewise had to the Senate. On the evening of the 31st, the Emperor Alexander had directed that body to provide for the safety of the state by drawing up a new constitution and composing a provisional government. The Senate, accustomed to obedience, assembled on the 1st of April under the presidency of Monsieur de Talleyrand and accepted as members of the provisional government Messieurs de Talleyrand, de Bournonville, de Jaucourt d'Alberg, and the Abbé de Montesquieu. At the same moment, the General Council of the Department of the Seine, illegally convoked by its president, Bellart, declared that the people of Paris wished for the recall of Bourbons. Such were, in substance, the accounts from Paris that were received at Fontainebleau during the first 3 days. They produced a great impression on the chiefs of the army, but they could not divert Napoleon from his military projects. He found himself at the head of 50,000 men, and he resolved to march on Paris. He hoped that the firing of his cannon would rouse the Parisians and revive the national pride, which had been momentarily repressed by the presence of foreigners. The enemy was worn out with the fatigues of the campaign. He had lost 12,000 men in the works around Paris. For some hours, he had been reposing in the security of success. His generals were dispersed in our hotels. His troops were scattered about in the labyrinths of the capital. A coup de main in Paris might produce some great result.